Good afternoon, everyone. It was a delicious lunch, wasn't it?
Yes, thank you.
And I am a dessert lover. I don't have it every day, I just have it sometimes, but it just shows how you can make delicious desserts. There we are. There's the voice. You can make delicious desserts without having to use things that harm you. My husband loves apple strudel, and I make him one, sometimes once a week, sometimes once a fortnight. I make it out of spelt flour, I roll it thin, I put grated apple on, I sprinkle it with maple syrup, roll it up. It's so easy. And how yummy is that? So there's so much that you can do that people don't realise. God gave us taste buds for a reason. Hey, food should taste fantastic, but it should also be such that it's going to build up healthy bodies and minds. And as you saw this morning, there are some things that are people eating that they don't realise that it's actually affecting the way they're thinking. So my lecture tonight, this afternoon, is entitled Healing the Mind. To understand how the mind heals, we need to have a look at the basic laws that govern the functioning of the brain. And the first law of the mind is the law of cause and effect. And effect follows cause with unvarying degree all through nature, and never should the effect be blamed as the cause. And how often it is. I told you the story this morning of the lady who got panic attacks, and she thought that she'd got panic attacks as if it's the cause of all her problems, but it was actually the effect of all her problems. And I was able to show her how to rewire her brain so that she could overcome her panic attacks. And I've seen quite a few people being able to overcome their panic attacks. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen straight away. And the things that I recite to you, I didn't read yesterday or learn yesterday. And the beautiful piano playing we heard this morning, it didn't happen yesterday either. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day. Isn't that the old saying? But little by little by little, practice makes perfect, and practice makes permanent as well, as I showed you in the pathway that comes in the brain. So always should we put our detective hat on and find out why these things are so. There's a verse in the Bible that says, do unto others as you would have them do to you. Now this is more than a nice saying, this is divine law. And that law states that whatever you give out, you shall receive again. Now that's great news, and it's bad news. When's it bad news? When what you're giving out is not good. One lady said to me, last week, she's 80, my son held me down and forced medication down my throat. I said, oh dear. She said, yes, I used to do it to him. What can I say? And have you seen the little brooch, the little sticker on the back of a car? Parents, be nice to your children. They're going to choose your old folks home. Life serves back in the coin you pay, so be careful. Be careful what you're giving out. And some people say, well, they need to know what it feels like. You know, I've been hurt. Well, maybe so, but not by your hand, because if it is by your hand, what does that law state? It's coming back again. So how can you walk away from heartache, from pain, from abuse? There is a way. And the second law covers it. It's the law of choice. And the choice that enables us to walk away from heartache is the choice to forgive. And what most people don't understand is that forgiveness is not a feeling. Forgiveness is a frontal lobe choice. In fact, if you were to wait till you felt like forgiving, I'd like to suggest that we would never do it. No, it's a frontal lobe decision. It's like the young girl that I was working with. She's 14, she's angry, she's bitter. Her father had sexually abused her from 6 to 9 years of age. But I knew, what's this going to do for her life? What's it going to do for every relationship? Her marriage, her role as a parent. So I decided to take the plunge, you know, when you turn the hot water off and just have cold water on. What I plunge every morning when I go into that cold creek, I took the plunge and I sat with her, and I gave myself a bit of time, and I was going to go through this with her. And I said, Do you know there is one way that you can be freed from the heartache that you're feeling, and that is by forgiveness? She said, no way, he does not deserve to be forgiven. I said, absolutely right, but it's got nothing to do with it. As the time went on, I explained to her how forgiveness cuts the chains that bind you to that painful past. Forgiveness gives you wings. Forgiveness gives you freedom. Forgiveness is the only prescription in the entire universe that has the power to break the chemical bonds of hostility, anger and hate. You don't have to feel like it. Do you know, as we went through it, finally, I think it took about an hour and a half, finally she said, all right, I forgive. Now some may say, I don't think she felt like it. How could she feel like it? She made a frontal lobe decision, even with only a half-developed frontal lobe. She said, all right, I forgive. I jumped up, I shook her hand, I said, congratulations. You have just made probably the most important decision of your life. Now when she said, all right, I forgive, we've got a tiny little pathway there. When I shook her hand, what did it do to the pathway? Just put a little bit more in there. Do you know, that afternoon she said, I'm feeling better about it. I said, you are experiencing a law of the mind. And that law states, it's the third law, it states that your words affect your feelings. Don't wait till you feel like it, just do it. Because when you do it, then you'll feel like it. Maybe not immediately, but little by little by little. And every day she felt like it a little bit more, because practice makes perfect and practice makes permanent, as I showed you this morning. Now she had a pathway that was quite strong in her brain, which was resentment and anger. Do you know, research is showing now that anxiety, discontent, remorse, guilt, distrust can all break down the life forces and invite decay and death into the body. Now that little book that I think you've picked up called The Ministry of Healing, if you go to the chapter Mind Cure, you will find that statement in there. That grief, anxiety, discontent, remorse, guilt, distrust all break down the life forces and can invite decay and death into the human body. That's quite a statement. And that was written 100 years ago. And look what science shows today. Dr. Carolyn Leaf, in her book, Who Switched Off My Brain, she shows that when we entertain or cherish negativity and resentment, anger, anxiety, it's negativity. When we entertain negativity, it's like a breeze going through our mind. Now we are all tempted with negativity, or am I the only one? We all are. Now that negative thought comes into the mind and it's like a breeze, and it wafts through the branches of your nerves. And if you decide to hold on to it by cherishing it, entertaining it, little thorns grow between the dendrites. And those little thorns are physical thorns that the science is showing can cause damage in your nervous system to the point of psychosomatic diseases. All because we cherished and held on to negative thoughts. You don't have to feel like it. How could you? Just do it. Like this young girl. All right, all right. Great. Now every day I'd look at her, and that's all I had to do. Okay? Children are very, very bright. Don't say the obvious, okay? You're implying that they're idiots. They're very bright. I just looked at her. Yes, it was my daughter. I just looked at her and she'd smile. And then I know there's a confirmation. There's a confirmation. And every day, this pathway of anxiety, discontent, remorse got thinner and thinner. And every day, the forgiveness pathway got larger and larger and larger. Isn't that nice? That is how also we can rewire our brain. We can rewire our brain from anxiety, discontent, remorse, guilt, distrust, and we can rewire that to go down a love, joy, peace, goodness, gentleness, generosity, down those pathways. We have a choice. We actually have a choice whether we're happy or sad. And we have no right to be sad. When I was in Nakuru, Kenya, Michael and I were driving slowly. We had to drive slowly because there was a girl in front of us who looked about 15 who had all these huge, huge containers of water. I don't know how she stayed up on a little bike, and we didn't want to be responsible for causing her to go over. Whoa. We were going slow and we were going past a rubbish tip, and we looked in and children were jumping out of the rubbish. It was their home. These children lived in the rubbish tip. And we're looking at them, and you should have seen the smiles, the biggest smiles you've ever seen. What was their home? The rubbish tip. What do you think they ate? Probably rotten banana skins. And my friend who has an orphanage there, she has a whole lot of little children, and I'd say to them, you like it here? Oh, I love it here. They don't beat me. I used to be beaten every day. One day it was a whip, one day it was a stick, one day it was the cord off the iron. I don't get beaten here. Huh? No, oh, my life is terrible. I used to be beaten. No, he was so happy. I said, so you like it here? He said, yeah, I've got a bed. No pillow, bed. They were so happy. They were so happy. You see, happiness is a state of mind. And you know what? We can choose that state of mind. So happiness is also a choice. Let me restate A.A. Milne, the poet. He said, the world is full of so many things, we all should be as happy as kings. But we also know happiness is not due to things, is it? It's not due to things. It's actually something that happens inside of you. So when we entertain or cherish negativity, those little thorns grow that have the ability to damage the tissues. And the longer they're there, the bigger they get. Love is also a choice. I'm so glad love is a choice. You see, 20 years ago, Michael O'Neill decided he needed a wife. So he made a list. He's a businessman, and if it works on paper, it must work if you're going to choose a wife. And he made a list of all the positives and all the negatives of every woman he knew. He was 39 at the time. Unbeknownst to me, I was on the list. We'd been friends for about 10 years. We used to see each other at homeschool camps. He had little ones, I had little ones. I knew that his wife had left him a few years ago. I'd been single for 4 years. Unbeknownst to me, he had this list. And I heard the story later. He said one name kept going to the top of the list, and it was Barbara Russ. But he said I had two negatives against my name. I was older than him. So I was 3.5 years older than him. He thought he never would have considered a woman older than him, but he said he was nearly 40, so what does it matter? The other negative was I had 6 children. Who's going to take on 6 children, eh? But he said when I moved up to the area and he got to know the children, they were really hard workers, so that went to the positive side. An army of workers. So he said to his daughter one day, after this list had been going on a year, he went in and he said, well, today's the day I will ask Mrs. Russ to marry me. She said, Dad, you have to ask her out. He said, no, there's going to be nothing emotional about this decision. Anyway, she must have worn him down, and I get a phone call. Would you like to go out for tea? I said yes. I very much liked Mr. O'Neill. I just thought you can't get near him with a 10-foot pole. And here he is asking me out. And I don't usually eat an evening bill, but sometimes you can find a little hole, can't you? We have to be social. Anyway, we talked about the weather and the health retreat. You see, he was the business manager at the health retreat where my daughter was working, and I was working also in the health retreat part-time because I still had children homeschooling. Anyway, 4 days later, he said to his daughter, the courtship's gone on long enough. Today's the day I will ask Mrs. Russ to marry me. Anyway, I was in my daughter's house, which was on the property, and he came in the afternoon. He said, I've got a few things I need to talk to you about. I said, yes. He said, well, I've been thinking about things and I think we should get married. That was it. I said, this is very analytical. He said, yes, I'm a very analytical person. I said, well, I think when two people marry, they should love each other. And when I said that, he went, He said, well, I'm very attracted to you and I love your character. And I thought, wow, Mr. O'Neill thinks that about me. I certainly feel the same about him. So I said, yes, I will. Just like that. It seems like a very frivolous answer to a life-changing question, but Michael and I had known each other casually for 10 years, and for the last 3 years my daughters had worked for him, so I'd got to know him a bit more, and I thought, yeah, I like this guy. It's just that I thought you don't allow yourself to like because it's unsafe. So what was in? He said, great, meet me tonight at my house with all the kids. Now this is the age of the kids. Mine 10, he's 11, mine 12, he's 13, mine 14, mine 16, mine 19, mine 21. They were the ages of the children. Today, they are 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 36, 39, 40. And 7 days ago, my eldest daughter was supposed to have a baby. We're still waiting. That's number 16th grandchild. She has home birth. She says she's going to wait. So Michael said, no need to wait, let's get married. But you just can't get married. We had to wait 2 weeks. But what was interesting is the next day he walked past the window and my heart began to beat and I thought, oh, that's right, I'm marrying him. When I said, yes, I will, my feelings followed. It's a law of the mind that your words affect your feelings. And I must say it's one of the best decisions I made. Your choice to love is here. It's a frontal lobe decision. Now you're not going to choose someone who asks because you think, well, for a woman you'd be looking at a good provider, that is a good man. No, there must be an attraction. But how often is it the attraction is the only thing? You see, Hollywood's wrong. Did you know that? You look at the movie stars. They're on their 3rd and 4th and 5th partner. They don't know what love is. Love is a choice. And I'm so glad love is a choice. And so when I ran over Michael's computer with the car, it's a long story. See, where I live, I've never locked my door, never locked my front door. I never take the keys out of my car. We live out in the bush. And we're in the city, and the suburbs around the city. And Michael's driving every night. I don't mind driving. I used to drive all the time when I was younger. But he's called away. And so I have to come out and get in the car to go to the meeting. And I come out of the car. I come out of the house. There's the car there. I've got his computer. He kept saying, don't forget my computer. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, it's locked. I put the computer down. I run around to open the door. I found out later I could have pressed a button. I run back inside. I get the box. Diligence is my second name. I get the next thing. I run round. I get in the car. I go, boom. What was that? Anyway, I roll back a bit and there it is on the driveway. The handle of the computer case just... Oh dear. And then I get a call. It's Michael. How are you going? All right. What's the matter? You know how you just dive in the deep end? I just ran over your computer in the car. Oh. Well, I've got to go. I'm backing out now. Yeah, righto. Now, what do you think I'm challenged with right at that point? You idiot. Huh? Aren't we often the worst on ourselves? So my feelings are saying, you idiot. Anyway, early that morning, I gave my frontal lobe to God. I went to bed early. I'm not taking any of these things. I'm exercising. I'm drinking my water. I'm having nourishing food. So frontal lobe is sparky. Can you see why we need it to be sparky? It's sparky. So when feelings go, you idiot, frontal lobe says, oh, settle down, it was an accident. You're not used to locking the car. It was dusk. Oh, what have I done? Oh, settle down, you're about to speak to 80 people. Just let it go. Can you see the dialogue? And that's where God communicates with you. That's why it's so good to give it to Him. You get some good messages. So you know what I said to my feelings? Back off. Remember the wild horse? Whoa, put the reins on. Back off, back off. And I let it go. It was a struggle. It was a struggle. And every now and then it came up again, back. So, what if I'd taken it on? I probably would have started crying, then I can only drive, how am I going to lecture? 10 minutes later I get a call. It's Michael. He says it's all right. Oh, how I love that man. Huh? Can you see what love is? Look, I have to tell you, young people, the grey hair comes and the wrinkles come. And you'll be disappointed if that's what you've fallen in love with. It's character. That's what you fall in love with. My husband hasn't got really big muscles, but I think he's the strongest man on the planet. What's the illustration of strength? The strength of a man, of a woman, is their ability to control their feelings. The weakness of a man, of a woman, is the ability of their feelings to control them. And I taught my boys this proverb. It's Proverbs 16:32. I think it's 16:32. He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh a city. I heard someone say to Michael when they heard that story, "Wow, you had 10 minutes to calm down, did you?" He said, "No." He said, as soon as I heard it, I immediately thought, oh, righto, where are we going to get another computer now? You can rewire your brain to do that. Don't waste time on beating yourself up or beating someone else up. Put up your hand if you've never made a mistake. One little 7-year-old boy put his hand up. Oh, congratulations. You see what I'm saying? We've all been there, haven't we? We've all, maybe you've never run over a computer in the car. Life is made up of those tiny little things, isn't it? And what made me say to you, oh, I love that man, when he said, it's all right. Well, $1,200 later, he's got an even better computer, and we found a computer geek that was able to get it all off. And every now and then he'll drop a little joke about running over computers with cars. But you know what I do? Laugh. Yeah. I'd be a fool to go, oh, I'm hurt. Ah. Do you know there's a proverb, I think it's Psalm 119, verse 165. Great peace have they which love thy law, and nothing shall offend them. How nice to be. How nice. Words affect feelings, so be very, very careful on your words. There's a proverb, and it's Proverbs 12:18. It says, there is that speaketh like the piercings of a sword, but the tongue of the wise is health. By the way, who's at the piercings of a sword to? Oh yes, to the people that hear it. Ooh. But what about the speaker? Have you ever been with someone who's just lost it, and then an hour or two later, they won't even look at you? It's pierced them. It's pierced them. The fourth law states that your words reveal your feelings and you cannot let them all out. Some say it's your right to speak your mind. It's actually your obligation not to speak your mind. Our children were brought up in a home where it was considered a weakness if you lost it. It was considered a weakness if you let loud, angry words come out. And it is a weakness. I was talking to some young boys recently and they said, oh, you know, it was actually my grandson in America. There's this hockey player and sometimes he gets his hockey stick and breaks it. He is so strong. I said, that is not a strong man. I said, that is a weak man. That is a weak man. Breaking a hockey stick, there's not strength. You know what strength is? When you're tempted, when you're being yelled and screamed at and accused of terrible things, you remain calm. You remain calm. And if that is happening to you, You know what you say in yourself? Poor guy, poor girl, they've got a real problem. I better pray for them. Huh? That is the best attitude to have. You have no say over what people say to you, but you have total say over what you do with it. You have total say over what you do with it. Your words reveal your feelings, and you cannot let them all out. Proverb 29:11 states, "The fool utters all his mind, but the wise man keeps it until afterwards." There's another proverb, it's Proverbs 13 verse 3, it says, "He that open his mouth shall have destruction, but he that keepeth it shall have peace." And there's another proverb, it's Proverbs 17:27, it says, "Even a fool when he holds his peace is counted wise, and he that shutteth his lips is esteemed a man of understanding." And in James 1, I think it's verse 19 or 12, one of those, it says, "Let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. For the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God." So be careful on those words. "But I'm upset." Well, go for a run. Can't run. Have a cold shower. Haven't got a shower. Have a great big drink of water. Go outside and breathe deeply. Do not speak until good boss is once against the boss. Because when feelings are boss, what comes out is not good. And oh, how many words have been said that should never have been said. I'll tell you the story of my fifth son, Peter. He was dyslexic. Well, he is dyslexic. He just couldn't get anything. I'm glad he's my fifth child. I didn't teach him till he was 7 because he just wasn't getting anything. When this happened, he's 9. He knows all his letters, he knows the basic words, and he's doing school by himself. The school that I taught my children, basically that was a self-taught school. I would teach them the basics, and then they had little booklets that they worked on and I would oversee. I'm with James, who's 8 years old, and we're doing long division. "Mum, what's this word?" Peter. I said, "James, hold on a minute, I'll just check Pete." And I looked at the word and I saw red. The word was the. I've told him the thousands of times. What do my feelings do? What is the matter with this kid? When is he going to get it? I had to leave long division for the. Now, early that morning I gave my heart to God. Frontal lobe's there. None of that are in. All working well. So there's this frantic dialogue. I'm feeling, what's the matter with this kid? When's he going to get it? The other kids did the frontal lobe saying, yeah, and how's he going to feel if you say that? You know this is a different kid. You know he's your best worker. You know that he said to you one day, how come our eyes are so little and what we see is so big? Couldn't answer that one. He's a different kid, you know. Can you see the dialogue? What would I have said if that was going in and I'd gone to bed too late because I was on Facebook and I wasn't drinking my water and Peter, what's the matter with you? When are you going to get it? How many? And if I had said that, how do I feel now? There is that speaketh like the piercings of a sword. Pierce. I feel like an idiot. I walk away, Peter's crying, Jessica's crying. Do I feel like helping James with his long division now? Watch out anyone who gets in my way. Can you say that? The battle was fierce. I took some deep breaths. Peter's just still looking at the word. The Peter? Oh, as if I've never told him the before. And I walk away. That's it. No need for it. I'm walking away. When I walk away, how do I feel? Like a mighty conqueror. Do you know the Bible says in Colossians 4 verse 6, let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt, that you may know how you ought to answer every man. It was a battle, but I won. And when you win that battle, you know, it's easier to win the next one and the next one. It would be better that you ran outside and ran round the block 3 times with your nightie on than lose it with your children. And then the funny farm truck comes because there's a lady running around in a nightie. Oh, it's perfectly all right, just my morning walk. I know one little girl, mother used to scream at her, and then the phone would ring and the mother would go, "Ah, hello." And what does that child think? My mother likes the person on the phone. It's a struggle. We all get challenged. That's why just drop everything and run outside and do 10 push-ups on the ground or whatever it takes. Come back. Right, we'll talk about it now. Better that. Better that. Your words reveal your feelings and you can't all come out. That's where the physical can help. Number 5 is the law of adaptation. The law of adaptation states that we have a brain that changes. Do you know the Proverbs talked about it, but it's only 12 years science has acknowledged it. Here are the Proverbs. One is Proverbs Proverbs 13 verse 20. It says, "He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools will be destroyed," because of the law of adaptation. The other Proverbs is Proverbs 22:24. It says, "Make no friendship with an angry man. With a furious man thou shalt not go, lest thou learn his ways and get a snare for thy soul." Because of the law of adaptation, and because of the law of adaptation, the brain has the ability to grow and the brain has the ability to shrink. So let me give you a terrible growing scenario. The fish that got away, every time the story is told, how big does the fish get? Do you know if you continually relate painful past, what can happen to it? It grows. It can actually get bigger than it really is. And who would want that? But something else is growing. It's these little thorns growing in between the dendrite, causing damage. Well, what's a wonderful growing scenario? Every time you learn something new, you grow another dendrite. You grow another dendrite. Learn a new piece on the piano. I love knitting. Every time I learn a new pattern, I grow another dendrite. I am learning to play the recorder. Michael doesn't run out of the room every time I pick it up now. Every time, a new dendrite, a new dendrite. And that one nerve cell, and we've got 1 trillion in our brain, it has the ability to grow 70,000 dendrites, as I mentioned this morning. Oh. So what causes the growth, the best growth? Learning a musical instrument. Can you play a musical instrument? The rest of the day, oh good. The rest of the day you can spend choosing your instrument. Can't afford one of these. Mouth organ, recorder. You're cheating if you get a tambourine or a recorder or a triangle. Learning a new language. I was reading in the newspaper, where I don't usually read it, but I'm in the Qantas Club for 5 hours and I read through the Australian. It said in there, research has been done that if people in the latter years of life learn a new language, they can slow down Alzheimer's by 6 years. And all they have to do is spend 5 hours a week learning the new language. That's incredible, isn't it? That was only a few days ago I read that. Also memorising scripture. The Word of God is powerful. There's a wonderful verse, it's in Hebrews 4 verse 12. It says, "The Word of God is quick, powerful, sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing asunder of soul and spirit and of the joints and marrow of the heart." Wow. I love learning the Word of God. Memorising is one of my favourite things to do. And a few years ago I was memorising the first 14 verses in John chapter 1. And I'm walking away and walking up the hills and I couldn't remember verse 9. I couldn't remember verse 9. So what I do is I go back, I go forward, I go upside down, back to front, and I couldn't get it. And I'm getting nearer to the house and I start running. I started running and I ran inside, opened the Bible. That was the true light that lighteth every man that cometh into the world. I'll never forget verse 9. It's actually fun playing games with your brain. I love it. And this morning there are a couple of verses I wanted to remember and I could only remember the first verse and I would not open my Bible. I challenged it, and then I went somewhere else and then I came back and challenged it again. And finally I got it. Because it's in there. It's in the pathways are in there. If you learnt piano as a child, the pathways would be there. My son-in-law grew up in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and he learned to skate on the ice as a child, 5-year-old child. He said, it's interesting, we learn to skate really good when there are no parents around. And did you know that no child will throw a tantrum for another child? Have you noticed? Just for parents. But they'll soon stop when you throw the bucket of cold water over them. Just lure them outside so you don't mess the carpet up. Wonderful tonic. And if the child goes, that was cold, parent can say, yes, sweetheart, you were just getting a little hot under the collar. I just thought I'd cool you down. Wonderful tonic effect. One lady said, that's child abuse. I said, no, it is not. I said, I'll tell you what child abuse is, allowing the child to tantrum. When a child tantrums, all the little nerves tighten and become on edge, the muscles tighten, digestion stops, the bowels start to seize up. Whoa, terrible way. Bucket of cold water, fixes it like that. And next time the child goes to do it, just reach for the bucket. You know they can switch it on and off like that. So start to challenge your brain. Now you know what a lot of people do? When they're nearly there, they stop with the memorising. Now if you're climbing a mountain and you're near to the top, that's when it's the hardest. Do you just turn around and go back down? No, you're nearly there. Sometimes I'll memorise and I'll go over it and over it and over for 5 days, wake up day 6, can't remember a thing. That's when most people stop. But challenge it, and it will come to you. What's a terrible shrinking scenario? If we don't use our brain cells, we lose them. So you've got no choice, unless you want to lose them. We choose the pathways we travel in our brain. We choose the dendrites that we develop. That's why choice is one of the most wonderful things that God gave to us. If you have some habit pathways that you're not happy with, guess what? You can change them. Not easy. Not easy at all. But nothing worth doing in this life is easy, is it? It's hard work. Hard work. What's a wonderful shrinking scenario? When you forgive everyone who's ever hurt you in your life, ever misunderstood you, abused you, when you forgive, you turn that painful past to dust. Now there's no bad smell to draw you down there anymore. Isn't that good news? And because you don't keep going down there, the pathway grows weeds on it and it's just not a well-worn pathway anymore. We never forget, but it needn't be part of our everyday life. You know, sometimes on the news you'll see there's been a car accident and a girl's been killed, and here we are a few months later and the young man that was driving the car's in court, and he gets 1 year, and the parents of the girl that was killed are hoping he'll get life. Do you know, that young man will have to live with that for the rest of his life. And the parents come on and they say, we can have no closure now. You can have closure immediately. You can let go of it right now. Some say, but look what they've done. I said, life serves back in the coin you pay. The person that did this to you needs your prayers. I hate to think of what's coming back on them. One lady said, I've been watching a long time, it hasn't come back yet. Stop watching, stop watching, stop watching. Something else happens when you forgive. Let's say everyone here, we all forgive. Anyone who's ever hurt us, misunderstood us, abused us today. And if you wonder who that is, I can promise you something, God will bring it to your mind. And when he brings it to your mind, you might go, oh, not them. That's the one. That's the one. Just forgive. Just say, Father in heaven, give me the courage and the strength to forgive. I forgive them. I know one lady shouldn't even say the name. Just him, her. That's all right. It's your first step. That's your first step. When you do that, tonight when you lay down to bed, ideally by 9, so you get your hours of power, some little cells are activated. because of your decision to forgive, and the cells are called glial cells. The smallest cell in the human body is the sperm cell. The second smallest cell is the glial cells. So you've forgiven. You lay down to sleep and the glial cells are activated and they come along and they vacuum clean up all the thorns because of your decision to forgive. Science now shows us that forgiveness has a physiological effect in the brain to clean up the thorns, to clean up the debris. Glial cells are the vacuum cleaners. Now, if you want to pursue that a little bit more, Dr. Carolyn Leaf, she's an American, I think she's a psychiatrist. She's written a book, Who Switched Off My Brain? It's not a big book, but it goes into detail on describing that. But I've basically given you the bottom line. So it's a not negotiable subject. We just got to do it. And when you understand that you don't have to feel like it, that it's a frontal lobe decision, just do it. Just do it. Number 7, the final law is the law of diversion. And the law of diversion states that when something's so firmly denied as to refuse any hope for it, the brain has the ability to divert to other pursuits. Don't you love that law? What's the old saying? When God closes a door, he opens a window. My son James, when he was 13, he said, Mum, sometimes the window's bigger than the door. Have you found that? A guy that did our program, he was Italian, he said, no, Barbara. He said, what we say is when God closes one door, he opens two. That the trials in your life not be rocks to crush you, but stepping stones to greater things. The choice is ours, and I thank God for that choice. Thank you for your attention. We're going to have a break now. I just realised I've gone a bit over time, and it's 4:15. So we'll come back at 4:30. So it's not. It's 4:45. Sorry, what it is the light from something was on it. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Well, may I suggest something, that we have our break and that we come back at 4:15. Can I do that? Yeah. We can't, yes, I've got a nod. We can come back at 4:15. So we've got a half-hour break, and when we come back, we're going to have a look at how you can safeguard your brain against depression. And what I'm going to do as I begin the lecture on this, I'm going to list some of the main causes of depression, because if you don't know what the cause is, you can never have a cure. But part of this lecture was hearing what you heard this morning, hearing what you've heard now, and so having heard both of those lectures, we can springboard a little bit further into the area of depression. So I look forward to seeing you in half an hour.